Your boy Trey with Let's Just Talk Mental Health. And we are still here back and back and back again with Kara. And
Hello.
again, this is your group. Like, as a moderator, I know this is where your passion truly lies.
Yeah.
Um, what is the theme for this week? Is it still addiction?
We we I mean, I was on vacation, so
Vacation.
I didn't like set up a actual theme, but the month of September is Suicide Awareness Month. And
Gotcha.
this week specifically, from the 8th through the 14th,
Hmm.
it's Suicide Prevention Week.
Wow.
So there are like a lot of, especially during the month of September, um, there's a lot of suicide prevention walks. There's a lot of those things that are around. So I would, I know that there's one in DC
Hmm.
coming up. I might like, walk in it,
Wow.
just, to like show support and stuff. And I mean, my story, we've already talked it.
Yeah.
We've had this discussion before,
Mhm.
um, but yeah, that's what this week is specifically.
Wow.
This month is about that. So I've been trying to post things just especially on my public Instagram,
Yeah.
the just Kara thoughts,
Yeah.
um, encouraging people to like, know their worth,
Yeah.
and reach out to people as well.
Yeah.
Because you just don't know what people are going through um all the time.
You don't know. And there was there was a well-known rapper, or he was a well-known rapper. He kind of like, I think, faded after a while, but his name was Rich Homie Quan, and he actually
Mhm.
recently died from, I think it was an overdose, um, which is similar to what we were talking about last time.
Right.
And remember, we kind of like hinted on the perspective of, or the question I asked was like, do you think that it's intentional, or is it by mistake that one overdoses?
Mhm.
And again, I think it goes back to the argument of the fact that it could still be a suicidal thing as well. Like, that could
Yeah.
still, what's a motivator behind it?
Hmm.
Depression, or just, hey, this is all I have. It's gonna make me feel good. I know it could kill me, but I need this right now.
Yeah.
That type of plea for help,
Hmm.
silent plea, right? It's like, I'm just gonna just drown in my drugs, but I know
Yeah.
it can kill me, but I don't care.
Yeah.
You
It
know?
is. It
Yeah.
is definitely a silent cry for help. Sometimes it's not silent either, though. Sometimes it is like very loud,
Yeah.
where people are, you just go, the people that are going into drugs, you do know that they do it. But sometimes you also brush those people off,
Yeah.
you know, like
Mhm.
where you have like um biases against them
Yeah.
because like they made that choice to not like deal with it, I guess, properly or whatever.
Yeah.
But like, there's like judgment sometimes
Yeah.
that's there. And I think that that's something that we can work on as people, is just like not being as judgmental towards those that are like, you know, going towards those things as coping mechanisms or as a way to like release or be out of things. It's like trying to be there for someone so that they can have an outlet that isn't drugs.
Yeah. Yeah. True. True. Because you do have to watch it when someone's struggling or drowning in depression or this or that, and they're turning towards drugs or things to like give them that level of satisfaction or relief. You do have to watch what you say. You have to make sure that you're not pointing the finger of, oh man, all you do is this, all you do is smoke, all you do is, you
Mhm.
know, they obviously in many cases know that.
Yeah.
You're not telling them anything new.
Hmm.
you know? And so I think what you just said is really important too. It's just that there being a level of non-judgment, but a level of I'm here for you.
Yeah.
I'm here if you need me. I'm here if you know, you need someone to talk to, or I'll pray for you.
Mm-hmm.
That's always the answer, you know.
Mm-hmm.
I'll pray for you, or telling them about Jesus. Like those things are always the answer.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, you don't know what people are. That's the thing, you know. You really don't know what people are going through or have been through.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like we think we know why someone's being ugly or mean or the way why they're the way that they are until we sit down with them and truly understand where they come from,
Right.
you know? And then it's like, wow, like, oh, that that this is why you're like this,
Mm-hmm.
you know? Have you had that experience before where you've had people or someone that was mean to you and then you like found out through someone that they were like going through this or they went through this and that made you kind of go, wow, okay,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
really?
Mm-hmm.
How did that did you go back and apologize to that person? Did you
I don't think, I mean, like, wasn't that I apologized to them because it's not that I was mean to them, I don't think necessarily, but it's like you can understand where they were coming from.
Yeah,
Um, but there is still a level of accountability that they have to take as well. Like in like, even though you're going through something, that doesn't your trauma or your pain doesn't give you it's not an excuse to put that on someone else, you know?
yeah,
Like it doesn't mean you're not gonna have a bad day and doesn't mean you're not gonna like lash out or something.
mm,
Like that happens. We're all human.
yeah,
But I can be forgiving and loving
mm,
to someone and understand what they're going through, but that doesn't give them a right to be mean to me, you know?
yeah.
Um, yeah.
No, I agree. It's not an excuse.
Hmm.
Yeah, it's not an excuse or there's no excuse to it.
Like, and they can have a like if they come and apologize, like they're like, hey, this is what was happening. Like that's a different story because that's them holding themselves accountable.
Yeah,
That's them saying, like, because if I had found out what was happening to them and they were like, hey, I'm so sorry, I was really nasty to you that day. Um, this is what was going on. And I recognize that I like lashed out at you or something.
yeah,
Like like them holding themselves accountable and you can be like, oh, I'm sorry you're going through that, like I didn't know. And I may have responded in a way that wasn't right either. That's when you would apologize, I guess. I guess like a level of that happened like with my mom when I was not
mm-hmm.
like the same, but like it was like she expressed something that like she didn't feel like we were valuing her opinion with stuff that was going on, like as her daughters. And, and I was like, well, I want to understand this. So I asked more questions, like, what do you mean by that? And like, she felt like she kind of lashed out and she kind of did, but it was like actually she said it in kindness. Like it was like she just was expressing her feelings.
Yeah,
Like, and then I was kind of like a lot more firm and kind of lashed out at
mm,
the same time, but not like for me it was just like I'm like we're trying to get on the same page. So I'm trying to like, like I do value your opinion. I heard exactly what you said, but this is what we need to do right now. So I said it very just like firm, I
mm,
guess, which she's not used to. They're not used to that because
your firmness. Yeah,
yeah, because I'm still developing in it. And I've been like, you know,
yes, yes, yes. Oh yeah, yeah,
all of that. So it definitely was a little bit of a shock. And then she did, once we figured everything out, like as a group, and we're all on the same page. then it was like she apologized for how she came across. And I just told her, I said, you don't really have anything to apologize for because you were expressing how you're feeling. And I think that it was valid. Like your feelings were valid. I do appreciate you like apologizing for like feeling like you lashed out. And I'm sorry for like lashing back at you, but I hope you understand where I was coming from too. Like that, like so we just had a conversation. So it was just like understanding, but we also have a history,
Yeah.
um, like as a family. So it's just understanding that. Um,
Wow.
and I think
Yeah.
really the most important thing in communicating with anyone is, coming at it with a level of, trying to understand what the other person is saying, being kind and recognize and allowing for mistakes. Because if we don't allow for mistakes or we don't allow, if we're trying, like perfect communication is not going to necessarily exist.
Yeah.
Uh,
That's good. That's actually a good. That's good. I need to remember that. Hmm.
so like you have to allow that, like that grace there and like continue to ask questions, like ask questions and recognize that feelings are like their feelings are valid in that moment.
Yeah.
We're not supposed to be like necessarily ruled by our feelings or allow our feelings to just like tell us what to do.
Yeah.
Like we still have to be in control of that.
Yeah. Yeah. No, you're exactly right. Like, I love what you said about the communication. There's, you said, what, can you say that again?
I'm, oh gosh, if I can say it again.
Perfect
Something
communication.
that perfect communication doesn't really exist
Mm.
because there's going to be a level of like there could be a level of misunderstanding. There can be a level of, you know, um, there's just a level of humanity in it. Uh, and you have to work towards like understanding each other. And there's going to be times when like someone isn't going to say the perfect word. Like sometimes I mess up my words. Like I think it was in one of our like conversations, like the DMs talking about like personality versus character. It was like I said personality was like the most important, but I was really talking about character, but like the word I didn't think of the word character at the time when I was responding to what you had said.
Oh,
But
I thought you were talking about personality.
I mean, I did like personality, I realized was a part of it too. But what I was trying to talk about in that first conversation was actually character. And then I didn't think about the word until after, like, until after you had brought it up, asking personality or character. And I was like, yeah, character is actually what I meant. But personality is important too.
Not too.
But like,
Okay.
but like, but there was, and so in that I had made a mistake in my communicating. I knew what I wanted, like I knew the intention, but it wasn't without asking the clarifying questions later on too. And that's the thing about communication is asking clarifying questions to really understand because it's like we don't now you can get to know someone and you can feel like you maybe read their mind or understand what they want. And there is a level of that, but there also has to be like there still has to be clarity even in a relationship that's lasted 50
Oh,
years.
yeah.
There's still disruptions in communication.
Yeah. Mm, hands down. Like, yeah, I think for me, it's very easy because I'm someone who likes to talk. Let's just talk, like, talk, talk, talk. Let's just talk. Like, that's me. I'm a guy that loves to talk, like, and not talk as in like give no one else a chance to like to talk. It's like I like to talk even in terms of asking questions. Like I'm like, let me know about it. Why? I'm like that kid that goes, why, but why? You know, like it's everything, everything you say. I'm always like, why? You know, so like that's always been me as a kid, and like you then get to the point to where you can idolize communication
Yeah.
and think that it it's everything, and thinking that it's there's no way that it cannot be perfect. So if you communicate, you resolve everything. That's kind of where my mind goes sometimes. I'm like, you're lacking communication. You're lacking communication.
Mhm.
But then when you just said what you said, communication will never be perfect. Then I'm like, oh wow, yeah, you do have to work in communication. Yeah, I'm like, oh yeah, you can communicate and still not get anywhere because of the constant failures of communication. So
Mhm.
even
Well,
communication. Hmm.
sorry, you finish your thought.
God.
I was gonna say, and with communication, this is why I feel like balance is super important. Along with communication, there also has to be action. There has to be like, because you can talk and say all of the right things, you can communicate all of the right things, but if you're not actually putting the motion behind it or the action behind the words,
Yeah.
then then you're not doing what you said. Then you're not like, then there's gonna be also a lack of communication there. There's going to be um, that makes it imperfect because it's not coinciding, it's not aligning.
Mm. Yeah. No, you're exactly right. Like, yeah, it's not you're not matching your words with what it is that you said that you would do or are doing or are at least trying to do.
Mm.
And so it becomes a level of yeah, yeah, hypocrisy or mismatch, and it's not equaling up what you're saying. So it could be communication could become a double-edged sword if not if put in the wrong hands of the wrong person. Yeah, you're right. You're right. Ooh, that's deep. Ugh, I'm loving this already. I'm like, I'm serious.
We I don't know what the topic was meant to be. Do we get off the topic? I didn't mean
I don't even remember.
I
No,
didn't mean in the wrong direction if we did.
no, well, it was still going back to addiction and things of that nature and all those different aspects, but we kind of triggered off a little bit, which is fine. But I will say, I wanted to bring it up. We brought up the death of the rapper, the Rich Homie Quan was his
Mhm.
name, and a really big rapper. But I've been noticing constant overdoses. That seems to be the trend,
Yeah.
right? Mental
Mhm.
health is definitely probably devastating for most people. Mental health is on the decline, and we notice by the amount of drug overdoses that are happening. People are seeking peace.
Yeah.
They're seeking those things, mental tranquility,
Hmm.
and they're hoping they get it in drugs, and they keep pumping out more and more drugs, keep trying different drugs, thinking
Hmm.
that it's going to get them there, just to end up dead, just to end up even more feeling more empty than they did when they first took the drug, And so that's why I wanted to highlight that. And I was also going to mention that, like, we kind of spoke on it earlier, but it was actually, excuse me, I blame you for the sleepiness. But but it was actually what am I gonna say? Oh yeah, it was actually my mom's like best friend. Um, so there was a level in which she was sick, and we spoke about this earlier, which was you know the company you keep, the company you hang around, how toxic that they can really be to you.
Yeah.
And I don't really think people understand that. And I understood that, but then when my mom told me what she told me the other day about her friend, who had ended up having cancer, so she had cancer.
Mhm.
It was like stage 4 by the time they found out. because the doctors kind of diagnosed her wrong and stuff, and that ended up being the thing. Say it again.
I said that's hard. Like when, yeah,
That's really like that's a whole nut. You know what I'm saying? Like,
it's a whole nother level of grief.
so that was the thing. And while she's in the hospital, essentially dying from cancer, um, she had a really toxic dad, like really,
Mm,
or like really just mean, ugly dad. So ugly, he was so ugly and so mean to the point where he on her dying deathbed and needing help because she was so weak from cancer. He denied certain people that were trying to come to help her. One of them being her church. He wouldn't let the church people come in there and like help her. Yeah, he was like, no, not coming in. And he had the rights, because he's the father.
mm,
Her mother had already died from, I guess, overworking herself because the
mm,
husband was that type of husband, and she catered to him, didn't believe in divorce and all those type of things. So she was that type of woman, worked
mm,
herself to death, um,
mm,
being that woman that she was. And then now here he is. He has a daughter, his daughter, which is my mom's best friend, now dying from cancer, and he's like set bent on like not having anyone coming in there helping her. Crazy.
mm.
Um, but then my mom told me that it was so bad to where I think at some point one point they had to put him out or like stop him from coming around her because the doctors noticed that every time he came around, her blood pressure would go up.
Yeah.
Do you?
Yeah. Yeah. Your body will have physical reactions to trauma, to people, and
People.
your body a lot, like your body communicates those things. Like, um, and so it's really good that her doctors did advocate for her in that sense.
Yeah, yeah,
As it doesn't always happen, but that is
it
what
doesn't.
doctors are like, or caregivers are meant to do,
Yeah,
especially, because, I mean, in the mental health field where we look, there are things that, you look for and like you listen for, like um, there's confidentiality to an extent. It's limited based off of like, if, you're going to harm yourself, if you're going to harm yourself, we have to report that. We gotta or try to find you help, like get you maybe even sent to a facility to keep
yeah,
you safe.
yeah.
You know? If they find out that you're gonna hurt somebody else, um, we also are mandated to report that and try to keep that person safe.
Hmm.
Um, or if like a child or an elderly person or a disabled person, like you talk about abuse in that and any of those regards, like we also have to report that. So it's like in that case, the doctors like seeing that and advocating for their patient,
Yeah,
so important.
yeah, yeah. No, it's so true. It's so important, and that's when I heard that, it just really like stuck with me. Like man, it can be to the point to where, like you said, your body responds to like, people. Often heard people say like stress is a killer,
Mhm.
and then I hear a lot of people that like talk about stress as if it's almost a good thing, as if it's almost like how they
Like a motivation.
like a motivation. Yeah, I'm like I'm stressed, man. Like or you know I'm stressed, but I ain't gonna let it get to me or this. Like they kind of compromise with stress. It's almost like stress is a part of their life. You
Yeah.
already know I'm stressed. Stress as usual. I'm work stressing me out or this or that, and it's like, yeah, that could probably just be as dangerous as like saying you have cancer. Because like if stress is killing you, but it's a silent, like it's something that doesn't show.
Hmm.
It's like hypertension. It's like this
Yeah.
thing that's a silent killer. It doesn't necessarily have any level of it doesn't necessarily have any level of detection, you know?
Mhm.
but at the same time, it's killing you. That to me, I feel is something that I feel a lot of people aren't taking or don't take seriously. And when she told me that about her friend and how literally, he steps in the room or she hears him down the hallway and it's like, your heart rate is jumping up. That really, not only does that point to the significance of mental health, right? Like how your body mentally responds, but
Right.
just the environment you're in,
Yeah.
the people.
Well, yeah, I can understand that. I mean, like, even like, I just was with my family and um like went to my old church and I saw a bunch of people and like they know my story or they know like some of the circumstances that I've been through. And I was like, I honestly felt like I wasn't giving them my best self that day
Mhm.
because I was just so like there was a lot on my mind because it was a busy week for school.
Yeah,
And I had something due that day, which I don't normally have anything due on Sundays, but I did that day and I
yeah,
wanted to catch up, but also I was like, I have to like try to get back to work.
yeah.
But um I really appreciated like one of the couples, they came to my car and they were like, Kara, I just want to say like you look like so peaceful and so
Wow,
like you look like the best you've ever like, since all of that has happened.
wow.
And then, like even my family was like, since you left, like I recently left my old apartment and since I left that, they're like you like are just like it's like a weight is off of you and it's like you just look peaceful. You've been able to like, lose the weight now and like all of this stuff. Like you look amazing, you look great. Um And truly, like, you don't always recognize when you're in a toxic environment. Like, you don't always recognize it when you're in it, but like, you leave it, it's like night and day.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, um, that's
Um,
all I got on that.
yeah, no, that's so freaking good. You said you looked at the camera and said, "Leave it,
Yeah.
get out of there." So you're saying when you looked at the camera and said, "Leave it," you're saying there's no reason to tarry.
No, like, you don't want to stay. You can't stay in those places. Like, you're literally killing yourself slowly. Like,
Slow suicide. You think it's so? You would say it's almost slow suicide.
I would say, yeah, yeah, it's just like, it's a mental because like you're mentally just drained and not in like you're not in it. And it can like those environments can lead to like even with like I wasn't able stress causes so many different like levels of like not only mentally but physically.
Yep,
Like,
yep,
um high blood pressure, weight gain, like all of that.
yeah,
Or or even for some like rapid weight loss or something,
yeah, yeah,
like just so many things that your body goes through
yeah.
that um you know and yeah, it's like once I was out of the environment, I was able because it's like I was able to be able to just have peace, focus on what I needed to focus on, feel comfortable in your own home.
Mm.
When you don't feel comfortable in your own home,
Your own home.
like then it's so difficult to like do anything. Like it can even lead you into like just this like super depression, super depression, just like not wanting to clean, not wanting to do anything.
Yeah. Yeah. No, you're right. You're exactly right. Like
Cycle.
it's a cycle.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah. I was gonna say something else. What was I about to say? It was something to what you said. Um, dang it, I forgot. Let it come back to me. Let it come back to me. Let it come back to me. I don't know how I forgot this. But yeah, I stand behind 100% what you said. Everything you said. Like I think that again, it's a level of knowing and having the conviction of knowing that, you're harming yourself ultimately
Mhm.
and being in any situation that is toxic. Oh yeah, I was gonna share this. I was reading a book by another really amazing artist of mine, or author, I would say. Stephen Pressfield is his name, and he had a story that he told, or he was saying like, how you hear stories about a woman who is working a job, she's miserable at a job, and again, I'm not saying all jobs are miserable. Certain people love their jobs, but then you have certain people who are a job or the job that they're in is not their calling. They're just doing
Mhm.
it for the money, or they're just doing it because they're afraid to take a leap somewhere else.
Yeah.
Some people stay 30 years at a job that they hate because they're afraid to make a resume to apply for other jobs because they don't think that they'll get it because they had a hard time getting that one.
Yeah. Fear holds you back a lot.
And he was saying like that person then gets diagnosed with cancer, right? Like I hate to say
Mhm.
it. Typically, it takes those things before a person wakes up. I hate to say it.
No, you're not wrong though.
Yeah. Like something big, right? Something traumatic, a loss of a loved one.
Mhm.
It takes something big for them to then realize how brief, or the brevity of life, right? And then they start thinking. And it's like, what am I doing? And that's what I fear the most is regret. I fear,
Mhm.
I fear regret in the sense of being on my deathbed and going, what if I had done that? What if I had just went for that dream of trying to be an artist, singer, a dancer,
Mhm. Mhm.
poet, author? What if maybe I had done that? Because you're seconds now from death, and that's what I'm sure those thoughts are gonna start popping up.
Yeah.
A lot of guys I talk to when they talk to older people, and even me myself, you don't hear them talking about how they wish that they had lived for someone else, or they would talked about like they cared about the thoughts of others. It was always it then becomes more of a conversation of, man, I wish I had done this, or I wish I had done that, or uh,
Mhm.
I wish if I could go back, maybe this or maybe that. There's a lot of regret
Right.
talking to older people. And it's like, a level of like a deep sense of like, man, I wish I had done more with myself, or I wish I had done this more.
Yeah.
So for me, or I'm sorry, getting back to the story of what he was saying was that, okay, this woman who's in a job like that and all this type of stuff is miserable. She then gets diagnosed, goes to doctor, a health scare pops up.
Mhm.
And now uh, she quits her job. She moves to India to pursue some type of like artistic cultural thing that she wanted to always do. She wanted to go to India and become like do this like nonprofit missionary journey or just whatever. And then
Mhm.
he was saying like, then you start to hear stories about how the cancer goes into remission and all these different things. And what he
Mhm.
was getting at was like that essentially like your soul starts to struggle. Like he's like essentially like when you're unhappy, you when you're unhappy, your soul, right? Because I do believe that there's a purpose in us all, right? Like we have gifts, gift of
Yeah.
talking, or gift I can talk, like bringing people together. If I wasn't doing this, I'll be crushing. I'm like almost like suffocating that gift. And it's like the gift that I believe was given from the Lord above. It's like
Yeah.
this is a gift. Like you don't need to just be on a computer coding, doing coding all day long. And it's like that's nothing to do with communication. It's like, you're just typing up programs and stuff, but there's this gift that's burning in you. And unless you express that, you're suffocating it. And you're gonna either die using your gift or you're gonna die with it. And that is it's gonna die with you, and you would have never used it. And so essentially, I guess she gets hit with cancer, moves to India and pursues that dream that she always wanted. Cancer goes back into remission and like she recovers and stuff. And essentially he was in the book saying like, how you hear stories like that. He was like, it makes sense, like complete sense. When you're choking your soul out, he said eventually your body follows. Like you're already poorly, spiritually poorly sick and like suffering and suffocating. Your
Mhm.
body is not too long after following because it's like, yeah, that's the last thing to follow because it's like, you're essentially like killing yourself. And but it starts with the spiritual, your spirit being one of which is rejuvenated, um in that purpose that should be fulfilled, ultimately that being for the glory of the Lord. But like if you're not even operating in that, then your body is like the last thing to follow, which would then be these things that kind of come on a person, because
Mhm.
it's essentially it's hard for me to find people who are sick from like a lot of different things. And not saying that everybody who gets cancer and all these other things or diabetes, high blood pressure, all these other things and die from strokes, heart attacks are people who are just unhappy. Like that happens to happy people too. But I will say this. For a lot of people that I do know who struggle with health and problems and all these different things, it's because they're very much so unhappy.
Mhm.
And some of them can't control it. Some of it is just it's a genetic thing. It's an hormonal imbalance. Those things I understand. But for
Yeah.
the ones who can control it, as in the ones who are focusing on what other people think, trying to
Mhm.
live up to their mother's expectations, their
Right.
grandmother's expectations, their mom's expectations of the guy they should date or marry rather than the guy that they love. I'm talking about those type of people.
Yeah. Well, and it's those people though that do need like to work through those things. And honestly, that's what counseling and therapy is designed for.
Yeah.
Um, it's not necessarily designed for for like yeah, there's the serious mental health conditions, the mental illnesses, bipolar disorder, schizophrenia, those types
Mm-hmm.
of things that are there. Like that is there for that too, but it's meant for also those, I guess, mundane type things
Yeah, mundane, I guess, right? Like I say, yeah.
that you can it's again building those coping skills. And by figuring out, like, it could be that that person, while they're talking, like if they're talking to me, once I get my counseling license, like, like, why are you pursuing this? And then they talk about, oh, my mom, or oh, this or that. And then you figure out, the people pleasing tendencies and giving them homework, possible homework things to do to help break those
Break
things, to
those things. Yep.
those patterns, so that they can start living for themselves, living for their dreams, their desires, figuring out what it is that they actually want to do. Because, even as simple as like when I was on a call with my professor, one of my professors, he said one of the things he would do for a people pleaser sometimes is to give them the task to order at a coffee shop, and then like say that the order was wrong, or like change something in the order and be like, oh, sorry, I actually meant to order this.
Mhm.
Like, which is hard. I mean, I was a people, it's hard to like, or like send it back, like at a restaurant, send the food back if it is wrong. Like, if it is wrong, you
Mhm.
don't make something up necessarily. Or
Yeah.
you like changed your mind. You're like, oh shoot, I actually think I want this instead. I'm so sorry. Like you can say I'm sorry. You can like say that. Like you can still say it politely. It's not being rude. But like for us, like it feels really rude. Like there was actually one time where they forgot avocado on my sandwich. And it took a lot in me to actually say
To
something.
actually say something. Yeah. But you
To-
but talk you need to talk about that. Keep going. I'm listening.
but yeah, so it's like it took a lot in me to be like,
Yeah.
hey, this sandwich was supposed to have avocado on it. Um, can I have some? Because I like
I
avocado.
like avocado. You're instead of sitting there struggling, like you're eating without the avocados, right? It's like you're sitting there struggling, and they got like 10 million avocados in the back.
And they're just like, oh God, oh my gosh, so sorry. Like, and then like, so he just talked about, or, sometimes if they came back and they said, I couldn't do it, we talk about that. Like, okay, so what were you feeling in that moment? Like, what happened? It's okay. It's like, it's okay to fail. It's okay to like not do it. It's okay to like, not be successful in it, but it's making you become aware of it. Like, and once you're aware of it, that's when the change happens. Like, if you're not aware that it's a problem, you
Yeah,
can't fix it.
yeah, yeah. That's really good.
And it's the same thing with the toxic environment. When you're not aware that it's toxic,
Yeah,
you can't change it
yeah,
or you won't leave.
yeah, yeah. This is good. Like, like this is what you call good. Oh my goodness. Like we're over time. You see, time goes out fast when you're having fun.
Yeah. I mean, we're not quite over time yet. We have 2 minutes, but we do need to stop.
Yeah,
Like,
because yeah, like the decompression before you
fitness is
said
next.
again.
Fitness is next.
Yeah. And this is next. And G's actually gonna be on that one. She signed up. So yeah, she should be in there too. Yeah. Like, but what you said, oh my goodness. Like this was good.
Good. We didn't like necessarily stick to like one topic, but we did cover mental health. We
Yeah,
did.
it blended. This was a blend. Like there was several things here. The Rich Homie Quan one because we just spoke about that one, and then also just the level of, what my mom said about that stress
Mhm.
really impacting you to the extent of which you can feel it physically.
Yeah.
And I wanted to mention that because we brought it up earlier. And so
Mhm.
hopefully whoever listens to this can truly soak that in. And if they're in a position where they're like, you know what I'm saying, don't realize that they're about to die from a heart attack or stroke, they're one more argument away. But if they get away from this person,
Well, I mean, it could also be like, I mean, I guess tying it back into since it's Suicide Prevention Week for me, I'll end it with this, is it literally was one last argument that was my final straw. Like that was I don't want to be here anymore. And I almost took my life. So, um, so yeah, it can be that as well.
mm, yeah, well, thank you. Thank you. That's super dope. The next call, the fitness call is going to be a bit, actually, I'm going to blend mental health in it as well. Yeah, I might, well, we got to go there now, but yeah, I'm going to blend it in with, um, mental health and fitness, because like essentially like someone I came across this week. Um, I'll give a little more detail, but yeah, let's go into it.
All right, I'll see you there.
See you then. Appreciate you. Bye.